Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to draw this cocktail in colored pencils. You can use whatever pencils you have at home, but I'm using the Phoenix Color soft colored pencils. They are an oil-based colored pencils and they are a student grade pencil. They're not very expensive and they're available on AliExpress from Anstyle's stationery shop. They sent me this set of pencils to review, and the review should, if it's not up yet on my channel, it will be very soon. I'm starting by sketching on a navy blue Canson Me Tints pastel paper using the white pencil from the set. And I was pretty pleased to see how well the white pencil showed up here on the navy blue Canson Me Tints paper, because it didn't seem to be all that opaque on my swatch charts where I swatched it on black and white. Sometimes just having like not a stark black paper, but like even like a jewel tone or a denim tone. This is probably more denim than navy, to be honest. Just having it not quite like super black, your pencils will show up pretty well. So I do encourage you to try working on a toned surface, whether it's a recycled, brown paper bag from the grocery store, or if it's an actual art paper. It can give you a whole different perspective on your art supplies. And it just kind of can also help you be a little more creative because you're using a whole different background color. Now, I did use my electric eraser there to remove some pencil where I didn't want it, namely the back side of the glass, because I had that little skewer with raspberries on it, and I didn't want that to show through. Plus, I know how many layers I'd be able to put down because this is the first time I've used these pencils on an artwork, so I just wanted to make sure that I would have plenty of tooth left on the paper. Now, speaking of paper, this is Canson Me Tints, which is a double-sided paper. It has one smoother side and one rougher side, and honestly, I prefer the rougher side. Now, do you see where I scumbled with the side of my white pencil there in the center of the drink? Can you see that texture? That's the texture of the paper. Now, I prefer a more textured paper, especially when I'm using a budget pencil, because it allows me to put down more layers of pencil and it just grabs a lot more pigment. So you can get a lot better look from your pencils just by using a textured paper. I think oftentimes, and I'm not a coloring book user, so I very, very rarely will I color a page in a coloring book. So I find it very difficult to review products from the viewpoint of a coloring book enthusiast, because oftentimes I think that paper is a little slicker, and so you probably have different needs from your pencils. But as far as a textured art paper, these pencils performed really well on it. You can see the swatches to the right side of the screen. That was the 72 colors, just so I'd have a kind of a visual representation for my review. But to be honest, I usually don't swatch my colored pencils. I only do it for reviews because I find that if I look at the color of the lead for a regular oil-based or wax-based pencil, I can tell what I have. Watercolor pencils, water-soluble media, that's different because it will look a lot different when you add water to it. But as far as like dry media, I usually don't. I swatch watercolors, alcohol markers, and watercolor or water-soluble pencils for the most part. Now, I'm using a variety of greens here to get the different tones in this drink. I'm not sure what kind of drink this is because it's very, very green. It looks a lot more green than like what a mint julep or a mojito would look like, and it is semi-opaque. So I was just having fun using that reference photo I found on Unsplash to create this cocktail drawing. You could obviously look at the reference photo yourself, or you could find another similar cocktail to draw. I think it's fun to draw frilly drinks, especially if it has fruit and ice and is in faceted glasses and whatnot. And I kind of skip around, and you can see I put whites down first. That's my highlight. I like to do that because I can kind of reserve the white. If I put it down first, it's going to stick the best. And also with budget pencils, generally your white pencil is the most lackluster of the bunch. So if you're going to be using the white in a budget pencil set or any oil-based pencil set, really, it's best to get that down first if you know where your highlights are going to be. Now, I started off just by sketching right on my art paper. If you want a really realistic drawing, it would be much better to draw it on scrap paper first and then transfer only the good lines that you want. Because, I was definitely fudging it with the facets there, just kind of getting the impressions of it. Generally, for these first pieces that I'm doing for a review, I'm just getting a feel for it. I'm not worried about making a super realistic piece of art. I typically don't do colored pencils in a super realistic fashion anyway. I'm just trying to see how it lays down and what sort of color saturation I can get and whatnot. But if you wanted something super like accurate, I would draw it out on scrap paper and then transfer it so that you have, when you put those highlights down, that you're getting them in the right place. Now, I was really happy with how I could layer up these tones of green and get a nice opacity and get some really good coverage here. I found that adding yellow really helped to make the green kind of glow in different areas, and especially especially on the leaves there too, where I needed a lighter tone. The yellows worked really well, especially layering it over the white and the green. And it's basically a process of just kind of adding color and adding layer until you get the tone that you like. And my advice would be just to practice and just to try it. I would recommend, with whatever budget set you're going with, if you do decide to get a budget set of pencils, to invest in like at least one white Prismacolor or Derwent Drawing or any like really, really opaque wax-based white, just because that will really make your other pencils a lot more versatile. You're going to be able to highlight with it a lot better. It's going to stick on top of these other budget pencils, and it's just going to give you a lot more versatility. I think it's the best couple bucks you can spend on top of getting any basic set of pencils. And that said, I think these did a really good job. Even colors that tend to be translucent and transparent, like reds, they still showed up really well on this paper. So I was really impressed. And Canson Me Tints is not a very expensive paper. You can get 9x12 pads of it pretty affordably on Blick or Amazon or probably pretty much any art supply store online. It's acid free. It's archival. It's wonderful for not only art projects, but also like scrapbooking if you wanted to, or other paper crafts that you don't want to fade or to turn brittle and yellow. It's just a really good all-around paper that's not very expensive. And it's also available in really big sheets in case you want to like work large. In fact, that was my main paper for pastel for the longest time. And then recently I discovered sanded pastel and pastel matte. And those papers I do prefer for pastels, but these certainly get the job done. And especially if you're not doing tons and tons of layers, you're doing just a few layers, it works really, really well. Now, I wish I spent a little more time drawing the little, it's just kind of strange. It looks like a grass or a bamboo strip skewer. And I should have drawn that out a little bit better because my loose sketch, I had too many hairy lines to get rid of. So I ended up making this a little thicker than I wanted to, but it's fine. Now, this is kind of one of my last steps here, is to go in with a black pencil and to just kind of darken up any values that really need to be darkened. And it's much more important to have your values correct than your colors correct. So if you know you need a really dark value and you don't have the right color because it's a limited palette set, grab that black and go in and get your value with that black, overlay it on the other colors, and you will have a more complex color than just a plain black pencil. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, I wanted to put this little napkin down on the bar where the drink is, and I'm just very, very lightly going in with that black pencil, kind of drawing the shadow around the napkin and then drawing the shadow of the glass itself. And I thought, even just that alone really indicates that there's a napkin there. But I did go in with a gray pencil and just very, very softly shade that because I wanted to use the texture of the paper to create, that napkin look without having to do a lot of extra work. And I thought it'd be nice to have a little color in there too, so I went in with some blue. Obviously, you don't have to do that. It's up to you. And I like that blue so much because it looks like natural daylight that I went in and I added some of that into the reflections and highlights on the glass just to kind of brighten it up a little bit, especially that really bright white highlight on the ice cubes at the top. I thought that was a really nice way to kind of liven it up. And just another little tip that you can use if you want it to look like under amber lights or incandescent lights, you could use a yellow ochre or something, or a cream or an ivory, something like that. So pay attention to your lighting because it really can set the mood and the tone of your drawing when you're working. And here I'm just kind of brightening some colors and adjusting some values. I found that this was a really nice, well-picked set, especially for 72 colors. I definitely would throw this set in my travel art bag to go to a friend's house and do some drawing, or bring it to a crop or to a convention or something where I just want to have something with me that I can work with and not have to worry about like losing an expensive set of pencils. So I would recommend it. Now, it's not as easy to find as other brands because I believe it's only available on AliExpress. I will link to that so you can check it out if you want to. It's very reasonable and I believe it ships free, but don't quote me on that. A lot of the times the things from Anstel Stationery does ship free to the United States. But it definitely is an affordable set. I believe it was around $27 for the set of 72. And they do have different size sets if you prefer a smaller set. I think it's like 36, 48, or 72. But overall, I like the quality of these pencils, and they actually feel identical when you lay them down to the boxed set of the Phoenix Color China pencils that are done in that beautiful die-cut boxed set packaging. So if you just want the pencils and you don't care about the packaging, this is a great option. Obviously, with that other set, they spent the money on the packaging. That was not cheap packaging. The packaging here is cheap, but it is a stadium seating type of packaging, so you can see all your pencils. Of course, mine are all strewn around the table now, but you can see them all when it's just sitting up on your table, kind of like how Prismacolor's boxes used to be, which I really like because it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's not fancy, it's thin cardboard, but it gets the job done, and they were able to put their money in the pencils, and the money you're spending is for the pencils. It's not for the packaging, which I can appreciate that too, especially since a lot of people just like to put their pencils in cases when they're done, so the packaging kind of goes to waste. So I don't mind that. Now here's me going in with a Prismacolor at the end just to brighten up some highlights. Like I said, it's a great investment. I buy my Prismacolors in a box of 12, to be honest, because I never want to run out of them. I like having them. They're so useful, and I do go through them pretty quickly. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this time lapse, and I hope it inspires you to do some drawing on some toned paper. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.